Welcome to the Sexual Wellness Podcast, real-life conversations with industry experts on modern sexuality and how to live a happy, healthy, turned-on life. I'm your host, Laura Allen, founder of New Zealand's leading sexual wellness store and holistic sex, love, and life coach, passionately guiding women to expand their pleasure in and outside the bedroom. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sexual Wellness Podcast. Today I'm doing something a little bit different and I'm actually publishing an interview that I did with Drew Wild on his, Facebook Live podcast. I don't know, whatever. There are so many variables these days. But he has a program called The Pivot where the shit gets to shift and he talks to coaches and leaders in health and wellness about their journey from pain to purpose. And it's been really, really awesome to see some real leaders in the community talking vulnerably about their experience, where they've come from, and how they got to where they are today. So just a little bit more about Drew. He's actually just a really, really good friend. I love Drew. He's full of beans, always has a smile on, and so many good vibes to give and share. He's such a beautiful human. He's a health and wellness coach himself, and he is on a soul mission to reprogram the way that we look at and approach addiction. And addiction is something that we go into in this episode. So I've had many people write to me, especially when I ask in my private Facebook group, Lalula Ladies, or when I ask my kind of smaller group coaching crews what they want to see on the podcast. And a lot of you are asking and they want to hear more about my story and my journey. And so I want to deliver on that. And here it is. This is the episode that I did with Drew, and it goes into, my story, my past, where I've come from, why I work in sexuality, why I believe sexuality is so important, and the tools and the steps that I went through to get to where I am today. So enjoy the show.
Right, I haven't done any kinds of introduction yet, so I'm going to jump in and do that now that we have you here and present. Welcome to The Pivot. Welcome to not only my audience and your audience, but welcome to anybody that is also listening to the podcast of this, because we're recording on two other devices so that we can double up. So welcome to Laura Allen's audience as well. To The Pivot. What is The Pivot? The Pivot is a Pain to Purpose series where I get to bring a guest on twice a week to talk about where they've come from, their journey. This is really about the listeners. This is about the people that are sitting in that place right now and don't have any direction out. They have no fucking clue where to start. So I have a responsibility to bring guests on like yourself, and to share a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of hope, and plant a few seeds for some humans that get to climb out of that space, because we know it well. We've been there.
Do we know? I still know it. Honey, I still know. This exact situation right now that we've been in with these technical difficulties, the classic example when the shit gets to shift, because now I know, I've grown from this experience, Never use my phone to do a Facebook Live. Never use a Chinese phone to do a Facebook Live. Okay? I'm enlightened from this experience, honestly.
And we have a little bit more resilience than we probably used to. The old you and I probably would have thrown in the towel.
Yeah,
the first
I know
time
exactly
we tried
what you'd be doing. I know what we'd both be doing.
It's been a day of it. So anyway, I get to bring on this beautiful woman, Laura Allen, who I met probably about a year and a half ago, who I love and adore and cherish. I love what she talks about, and I love the way she delivers it. I love the way that you deliver your message. And today, I really want you to share a bit more about your journey and how you got to where you are now. But what I'd love for you to start with is just to talk a little bit about, what you're committed to today.
That's a great question. What am I committed to today? is to bringing ease and grace into my day. And even though I'm being faced with a lot of intense challenge at the moment, to still stay in a vibration of joy, even though it's hard. Yeah.
And what are you creating at the moment?
Oh, well, I'm creating a meditation pack for my business, for my community, and it's freaking epic. There's just nothing like it in the world. It's all based around like increasing sensation in the body and building pleasure. So it's a mix of the esoteric with kind of modern science, and they're all guided meditations that are, really aimed at sparking and reigniting arousal and sensation in your body, as well as all the other stuff like, self-love.
That sounds super juicy.
Yeah, even just like coming home from work and like transitioning from the work mode into, your God essence, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, juicy.
Taking a time to breathe.
Yeah, honey. Yeah.
And I know very well that this wasn't always the human that you have now become. And I would love for you to share a little bit about, I guess, to start with, where you've come from and what that sort of that dark place, that dark essence looked like to create the human that we see today.
Yeah, I guess it's okay, cool. So I've been thinking a lot about this session with you and like what I would want to share, because it's something that is really big for me in my life still, and something I guess that if I'm honest, I'm still unpacking it. And I think the experiences that we have when we're growing up, or even as adults that are, traumatic, can affect us in so many different ways. And when I say the word trauma, it feels really loaded, because some people can have really catastrophic traumatic events happen to them in their lives and they can recover reasonably quickly and efficiently. Whereas people can have like minor traumatic experiences happen to them, yet it affects them deeply for the rest of their lives. And so I think the biggest thing when it comes to talking about trauma and all of that kind of stuff is, I guess not so much for me, but for anyone listening who feels like they're wondering about their experience in life, or they're trying to like belittle it or make it seem like it wasn't a big deal and that they should just get over it, is that we don't need to judge the extremity of what it was, and we don't need to label it in a sense of like who we should be today due to, the 1 to 10 scale of how severe that experience was. So I think like just to start off, there's that. And I guess for me, a big part of my journey into becoming a sex coach, like a holistic sex coach, has been all based around like my experience growing up and having a terrible entry into sexuality, experiencing a ton of abuse and, on more than one occasion in all sorts of different realms. And then the thing for me was that I didn't even know actually at the time. It's not the specific event that hurt me so much. It was how it affected me for the rest of my life that has caused me the most pain and grief to this day. It's not the events themselves. I can look at them and I can go, oh yeah, okay, that happened, like whatever. And I don't feel anything. But what I really mourn and what I really grieve for is how it's affected my sense of self and my self-worth, and how I approach sex all throughout my adult life until, the last sort of 4 or 5 years when I've like been doing big work within sexuality and within my own sexuality. So, I think the darkest point that I could say, or like the darkest way that my kind of feelings of like lack of self-worth and like a lot of lack was expressing in my sexuality. And I was having experiences left, right, and center that didn't serve me at all. And I used to walk around thinking that I was so sexually empowered. I used to think that I was the shit because, I had like multiple lovers and, I had like hoes in different area codes, and like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I did have a good time, but this isn't about whether casual sex is good or bad. This is about how you feel after your sexual experience. And the reality was I was walking around with this mask on, thinking and telling people that I was the shit, when really, when that person walked out the door, I was in the fetal position on the floor, bawling my eyes out. And, I think this is a big piece of addiction as well, because Drew, you and I can relate on this level. Like, I've been in the 12-step program as well for sex addiction, which feels so Hollywood to say that. It's like, oh, I'm a sex addict. Like, it feels like, should I move to LA? Like, yeah. But it was a real thing for me, and it's been a really complicated one to unpack because, with alcohol, if I had a sip of alcohol, then that means that I've like it's like I've broken the sobriety. Whereas in sexuality, it was like so much more difficult to figure out. And so what it came down to was how I was treating sex and how I was feeling after the experience, and during, of course. But like, when you drink, how does it affect the rest of your life? Are you drinking and is it affecting your family, your relationships, your career? Is it really sabotaging your life? Because that's what it was doing for me in a really, really big way. And I was using it to numb and to dissociate and to just check out in a big way.
Yeah. And that's what I was about to say. You're still using it as a vice, right? You're still using it. It depends on how you're using it, right? And if you're using it in a way that leaves you regretful and remorseful and guilty, then that's going to have a ruthless impact on your mental wellness, which is exactly how it played out for you, right?
Ruthless. Yeah, and it affected my mental health severely. I mean, not only was it, eating away at my self-esteem, because I was letting people into my life and into my physical body who were, just like, I'm not even going to say that they didn't deserve me, or it's not even about that, but they were just in no way, shape or form like on the same path as me, like it's just, there was no love and connection and respect there. So it doesn't even matter who they were and what they were doing. It was just that we didn't have any kind of connection and love and respect. And that, to me, was a complete betrayal of my own self-love and self-worth. And then it just kept eating away. And of course, at the time I was, medicating with alcohol, and I've never been big into drugs, to be honest, but, just, filling my schedule left, right, and center with social events and never giving myself any space to feel anything. And what I would do is, if I was having a hard day, I would be like, oh my God, I feel so empty. I feel so anxious. I need to have sex to feel better, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're using it as a way to fill up something inside of you that's missing from outside of yourself, rather than finding a way to fill that up within you already. And I mean, that's the crux of fucking addiction.
Straight up. Yeah.
Real talk. Like, what can I shove in my mouth, up my nose, or who can I sleep with to fill this void that I'm feeling from within myself?
Yeah.
And is it leaving me feeling, like I've already said, guilty, remorseful, and showered and covered in guilt and shame? I had this conversation with someone the other day. You can, the example was like a stripper. You could have a stripper. She's passionate about her work. She's so dropped into her own body that like she's there to put on a performance and show these boys like how embodied she is and tapped into her own body. And then you've got the stripper who is just completely disconnected. She's doing it for money, and it's having like some real effect on her. It's the same, I guess, for you, how sex would play out and how it would in others. It's like when you're using it as a vice or as a crux, as opposed to like being really truly dropped into your own body, then there's a disconnect, right?
Absolutely. Total disconnect. I mean, like disassociation from my body was like my go-to in the experiences, like every now and again, of course, I would meet someone who I did, it's not all bad. Like I had some beautiful people in my life and we had meaningful experiences as well. And I would be able to drop a little bit deeper, but it was always an issue for me, especially even within my long-term relationships. It's like, why does the sex always disappear? Which is what happened. You'd think it'd be hot to have a girlfriend with like a really high libido, but it's not, because it wasn't for the right reasons. It was like, babe, you could put a paper bag over my head. I just need you to fuck me so that I can feel better. That's actually really not sexy, and it's super not healthy. It's, and I didn't have any awareness at the time of what I was doing. And the thing is that I had associated and attached love so much to sex, and I didn't understand at that time that intimacy and love wasn't a transaction, and it definitely wasn't a transaction for sex. And it breaks my heart. I mean, it breaks my heart to say that live on the internet. And, like even now I notice myself acting out, or still, like the remnants of that sort of core belief, I guess, being played out in new and different ways. And so I think that's another thing, is that like we grow and we change and we transform. Absolutely. And, we're always kind of like evolving and moving through the same thing, but just in different ways and in deeper and more meaningful levels. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And I want to look back a little bit. I love what you said. Someone can have what you would label as a ginormous trauma and move through it quite, unaffected. And someone could have something small play out in their life, and it causes ripple effects throughout their body forever. How key in your mind is the processing of these events, and sort of not so much the unattachment, but like actually processing the event in a healthy manner, in a healthy way, where it's not going to surface again at a later date?
I mean, yeah, of course, it's essential. And that process looks beautifully unique to every single person. I really believe that there are many paths to the top of the mountain, and it's about finding a path that resonates with you, finding a language that you can associate with, a community that can support you in this. I mean, and they're relevant in not only just in the spiritual world, but in all different types of walks of life. It's just about finding a healing tool, quote unquote, that is going to work for you. And of course, like I deeply believe that processing the events and, the sort of ramifications of that event is hugely important, because what happens if we don't is we continue to keep acting it out. We just keep attracting that same experience, because if we're going to talk about trauma, like trauma is a body experience. And the reason why we keep acting it out is because it is stuck in the body. As humans, okay, let me take that back a second. Animals, when they get chased by lions in the wild, when they go through a traumatic event, they shake it all off at the end. They expel all of that energy out of their body.
Yes,
but, if you're a woman and if you've been raped and you go to the police station, like there is no shaking that goes on there. You are just like talking. You're also being like searched, and then you're put into a counselor's office. You're offered all this talk therapy, which is great. I'm a huge advocate of psychotherapy. Absolutely. But trauma is something that lives in the body. And so I believe it's super important to work holistically and with both aspects, mind, body, and then of course spirit as well, if you're into that.
Yeah. And I appreciate what you said. The whole essence of this series is, I can only tell my story so many times, and you hit the nail on the head. Like everybody's journey is so different. It's so unique. And that's why I wanted to bring other people on to share what has worked for them, because it's different for absolutely everybody. Which kind of leads me into the next part of what I really want to talk with you about is what came next. I guess what was the point in your life where you drew a line in the sand and was like, fuck, enough is enough? And then what unfolded to, I guess, on this journey of self-exploration to get you to where you are today?
Yeah, awesome. So I'm a big believer in you attract what you're ready for. And that comes to challenges, and that also comes to healing. You know, it's like, you can't jump from like just, you know, being in the place that you're in now to going into some kind of, you know, deep subconscious like healing thing we peel, you know, like there are stages that you go through. So I'm really glad that you asked this question. So where I started, I mean, the first step for me was I was an anxious wreck, having panic attacks left, right, and center. I couldn't work. I was, you know, a complete mess. So the first thing that I had to do was sort out my mental health. My sexuality wasn't even a thing for me. I had no awareness about it whatsoever. It wasn't even an issue. I didn't even know it was an issue at this stage. So the first thing that I had to do was to sort out my mental health. And I was in Amsterdam at the time. I was at the pools. It was summer. I was there by myself. And I had one of those like epiphany moments, you know, it was like the birds were flying in the sky and like the sun was shining on my face, and I like wrote in my journal, and that happened. And I pretty much just made a declaration to myself that I was going to, like, this was it. I'd had enough, you know, I'd had enough of my own shit. I was like, I know in my heart and soul, like, I know that I can live this. I know that I can have an epic life. I always knew that. I always knew that I could have love and light, and I knew that I could live the life of my dreams. I just didn't know why it wasn't working for me. I didn't know why it just like, I could never quite grasp onto it. I didn't know why I was such a mess. So I decided the first thing I had to do was I had to make a decision to change. And that was all it was. I just woke up one day and I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I decided fully 100% in that moment. And I didn't do it anymore. And so, you know, I had absolutely no fucking idea what I was doing whatsoever. I was just like, what do I do now? And the first thing that I went to do was self-love, okay? And so I went on Instagram, I went on Facebook, I went on Google. I was like, what the hell? Like, what the F is self-love? Because, you know, you hear all these quotes and I'm just like, cool, but what does that even mean? And, you know, I started talking to my friends about it. I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. What should I do? They started recommending books to me. I found a book. I found a woman, Melissa Ambrosini. If you are someone watching this who is just like, I need to like go back to basics and learn about this self-love stuff, I am like 101. Definitely read Melissa Ambrosini's book, because, you know, it was perfect for me. It was exactly where I was at that time. It was just about journaling, gratitude, mindset, being mindful of that like mean mind chatter in your head. The book is called Mastering Your Mean Girl, which is the mean voice in your head.
I was about to say that. So you're simple. A badass or something, yeah.
It's so simple, and it was just exactly what I needed. I needed someone to like be a policeman in my mind and just literally like arrest any like negative self-talk that was happening up there, because it was like, this is enough. This has got to stop. So that was the first port of call. And through Melissa's work, I learned about nutrition and IAN. And so I signed up to do my health coaching course, and then I learned about nutrition. My diet changed. I came off hormonal drugs. You know, I've been on this journey for 5 years now, more even. And so the change, to be honest, the initial change going from that complete rock bottom to like my head's above water now was quite quick, because I made that decision. It was quick. I noticed my thoughts and I changed my diet. Boom. I also quit drinking. Done. I stopped having sex. No more. Didn't even kiss a guy, date a guy. I was just like completely uninterested. Like, don't even give me your number, because it's a no. Yeah. And I just did all that, and I was fierce about it. And then from then slowly, like the next step, the next solution, like the next thing to go into and move into became more and more apparent. And once I had laid down a like really solid foundation of myself, I had self-love tools, I had mental health awareness tools, I had a really solid physical body, I was working out, I was healthy. Only then was I ready to start looking at sexuality, you know? Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it. Like, this was, this is huge, and landing really hard. Like, for me, to start with, it was like, learn how the fuck to stay sober.
Yeah.
Like, that was it. That was it. That was it for months. Like, basics. basics, like you're talking about, like going back to self-care and self-love, gratitude, an attitude of gratitude, tapping into the right support networks that I needed, like and it was also new because it was always me, the total bully in my head, me versus me, self-deprecating everywhere. So like talking to myself in a way that I would talk to my friends was foreign.
Oh, yeah, absolutely hear you. And, it's so easy, even now to this day, after all of the quote-unquote work that I've done, to slip back into these old patterns, And so, like, that being that policeman or policewoman in your head, arresting all of those thoughts that are, like, trying to kick your ass, like, that's a day job. That's like that's a 24/7 job,
And seeing them for what they really are.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we're human. We're human, and that's been coming through a lot today. Like, I've had a superhuman day, like experiencing it all and having to go back to basics, like going back to the raw basics. Like, all right, Joe, let's just have that conversation. Let's have that fucking conversation.
Man. Honestly, like I spent 3 hours crying yesterday. And you know what? But I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Number one, I just want to drop it in here. I kind of feel like crying is a very sensual experience. Now that I'm like more into, what I'm into, it's like crying can be sensual. But yesterday it was not sensual. This was just like full on like catastrophe. It was outrageous. I just never, And so I think it's like, just like getting to a point where like all of your emotions are okay and, you don't need to be one way or the other. Like I laugh just as much as I cry and I wouldn't have it any other way. So,
Amen. So when did this start to move into the realm of I guess, sex and sensuality? And when did you realize that this was your thing? This was going to be your jam?
I'd always had a feeling like it was as soon as I started doing my coaching course, I sort of whispered into the ears of my really close friends and I said, I'm going to be a sex coach because it's like clearly right for me. It's something that has been so big in my life and I've had so much adversity and it's something that I've literally dedicated thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and time and energy in my life to sorting out, like mind, body and spirit, everything. And I still do to this day. And so there was just that severe, like fierce dedication within myself to sort it out. And then also knowing that I wasn't the only one out there who had stories like this. And I wasn't the only one out there who wanted to have a fulfilling and meaningful sex life, that wasn't agonizing essentially. It just felt right in my core, and once you start like tapping into your intuition, like you just kind of know. And I knew
alignment, baby.
Yeah, alignment, baby, fully. And, even when I was a little kid, I knew that I wanted to do public speaking. I knew that I wanted to be in front of a camera like we are now. I've always wanted to do these things. And so I didn't know what it would look like back then, but I always knew that I would be doing something like this. And so as I've evolved, the pieces of the puzzle have just fallen more and more into place. And so, once I got my health coaching certificate, I like dove deep into sexuality. And then it wasn't until I'd like moved back to New Zealand and became, I guess, secure and grounded financially and like geographically and, just like energetically felt ready to like go all in and launch my brand, launch my business and start like really serving and showing up.
Was there any resistance leaning into that and starting to like really truly speak your truth and take ownership of your truth, I guess?
Yes and no. I mean, I think it's been a long journey. So essentially I've taken my time with it. Even before I went into sexuality, I still had an Instagram presence and talked about mental health and awareness and sensuality. So it's something that's been building and building over time. And, but by the time I was really ready, like I was really, really ready to be out loud and proud about it. So there wasn't a lot of resistance, but, it's like all things in life. Like I've gotten to a point now in my business where I've hit the ceiling and I've got to go through the next level. And to do that, you get challenged and you've got to like make changes. You've got to level up, and it's just, so I'm feeling resistance now because I'm needing to go to the next level, and it's hard and I don't know what I'm doing, and it's scary and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Amen. Feel that.
Amen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sitting on the rocket ship right now and just feeling it all. But what's that analogy? Like you get offered a seat, you fucking take it. You take it and you don't ask questions. You go and sit down on that rocket ship.
Sit down.
I love this conversation. I love what you talk about because it's something, we've spoken about this a lot in school. In school, you're literally taught, like, sex ed is like how to put a condom on a fucking banana and
it's like, what is that?
How to avoid STDs. Like, that's it.
Yeah, if you're lucky. Like, yeah, and then,
all
women need to go on the pill, like, hormonal control, like birth control is like hormonal drugs, and
the education just isn't there. And I can only imagine in this day and age, like, I guess the internet wasn't as prevalent when I was younger, but it was coming up. And now, I would imagine for most, especially men, boys, teenagers, all they learn comes from porn, which is so fucking unhealthy. And no one wants to talk about fucking sex. Nobody. Like, everyone is riddled with so much fucking guilt and shame for whatever reason that sex is this uncomfortable conversation when ultimately, like, we are a product of two people that have had sex. That is how we got on this planet, and we can't talk about it.
I
what
know.
Gets to change? What needs to fucking change to bring this to the mainstream? Where, like, it fucking drives me crazy. You talk to partners and things that have been together for years and they don't even know what curls each other's toes. It's like, it's such a huge part of what it means to be a human, yet people aren't willing to have...
It?
Well, it is.
What curls your toes?
I love it. I do.
That's a great question to ask.
Yeah, no one has the willingness to have these sort of what labelled as uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we haven't been taught the skills. It's a highly vulnerable, as we've already discussed, there's so much shame and taboo around it. And so many of us, like some of us have, but so many of us haven't had healthy relationships, yet alone sexual or intimate relationships modeled around us. So let's just like take a second to practice some compassion here, because the reality is we are still experiencing the hangover of this like patriarchal society that has been kind of happening over the last couple of hundred years. It was only a couple of hundred years ago that women were burnt alive for being intuitive and sensual and promiscuous. Like, that's not that long ago. And the thing is that we're now stepping into a time, like, really, I've been watching Mad Men, and like, that shit is real. Like, it was, like 50 years ago where things were just so different. 1 second. Sorry. I'm just experiencing a little bit of playback on my headphones. Yeah. So let's just practice a little bit of self-compassion where it's just like, I know we want all this change to come like right now, but it wasn't that long ago that things were like really, really, really bad. So we are now living in a time where it is safe. It is safe for men and it is safe to women to be happy, healthy, confident, and turned on in life in the Western world. Okay. So like, there's that. And then the other thing is we can't blame the schools because they've got all of this regulation to go through. There's so much red tape, and it's just, we can't put it all down onto the schools to teach us about healthy sex ed. So, of course there's been porn that men and women have been learning from. It's not just men. We've all been learning from porn. So, I think, we're doing the best with what we can. The internet, sexuality, healthy sexuality, I believe, is the new yoga revolution. Like, it's coming through. There are amazing teachers coming out at the moment who have incredible language and can access mainstream audiences just through their accessibility. And, there are just like teachers coming out from left, right, and center who can like really start to spread this message in a meaningful and powerful way. And it is just going to take time. And the best way to do that, of course, is to just like lead by example as much as we possibly can, and to like have the conversations when we can, and to be as open as possible as we can about it appropriately.
I love that. I love that. So beautiful and so perfect. And, yeah, you know, like when you do slow down, often we only come into these worlds after, for me, ultimately having a bit of a fucked up experience. It's like, okay, shit gets to change. Where do I go? And how do I access that? And you're right, like, you know, the access in this day and age, if you get to that point, it's there. It's right in front of you if you know where to look. And we live in this beautiful modern world where, like, when shit does hit the fan, like, help is literally at the end of your fingertips. And this is, I guess, why I love having these conversations with humans like yourself, is for people that just don't know where to start. They just don't know where to start.
Yeah, fully, I get it. And I think that like the best thing to do is to, cause there's like a sense of powerlessness and helplessness in that, right? And I think, it's super important to just kind of, just get curious and start researching online, and just, you know, like have your blinkers open, because if you're really determined, and if you do start to, where focus goes, energy flows, or something that's kind of the same,
close enough.
Something like that. So if you are really like putting it out there, you know, this isn't just fluffy esoteric, but if you are really putting it out there that you want to find a teacher for this, or you want to find a podcast for this, or you want to, you know, find a Facebook group for this, all you have to do is do a search. Go in there, feel it out. Trust your intuition always, especially in any type of healing environment, but especially with sexuality. Be really, really picky with who you take advice from. Always. Always never go to a workshop if you don't vibe with the facilitator. So if I'm choosing a course to do, or if I'm choosing, you know, anything, any kind of learning, I deep research the facilitator and their life and who they are and how they live, like outside of their professional life, because, you know, you're essentially getting their transmission, and it's super important to make sure that whoever you are learning from is someone who you are truly and deeply inspired by, and you believe can give you the advice that you are looking for at this time. So be curious. Don't jump into anything too quickly, and just like keep at it, and like just practice as much self-compassion as possible. And you know what? In the beginning, if you're like wanting to learn about self-love and just like wanting to change your mental health and so on, like all it takes is like a simple lemon water in the morning. Because just by doing something so small like that every single morning tells you and tells the universe, or like whatever, to whomever might be concerned, that you are dedicated and that you're showing up for yourself. And then the next time that you go to implement another practice that, you know, you may have lost trust within yourself in the past, where you make yourself promises and never follow through, for example. And so that makes you lose that sense of trust within yourself. But by showing up and doing these little small things, you start to rebuild that muscle, and you start to believe in yourself more deeply. I can do this. I'm having hot lemon water every morning. I can do this. Do you know what I mean?
Fuck yes. Fuck yes,
Yeah.
100%. I tell clients all the time, you know, you take one step, the universe takes 10. That's just the reality. If you don't believe me, test it out and watch it unfold. It might not turn up in the package that you thought it would be delivered in, but it will always turn up.
Straight up.
Yeah,
and
what
just
they call
start where
gifts
you
in
are.
strange wrapping paper.
Yeah. Just start where you are. You're perfect exactly where you are. You don't need to be anywhere. Like, just, you know, you're
great perfect, whole,
right
and
now.
complete.
You're
just
sweet.
not finished.
You're sweet. And you're just adding. You're just adding on to your epicness already, which is cool. So, like,
everything is an extra.
All good. Yeah.
Everything is always an extra.
Yeah.
What part, I guess, has, along your journey, has it played working with humans that just know a little bit more than you? Someone that can shine the light on the spaces that you didn't even know existed.
What part has that played?
Whether it be, what part has that played to get you to where you are today?
Massively, massively, all the time. I mean, you could call me an opportunist, but I seek out relationships all the time with expanders, people who expand my mind, who challenge me to think bigger, who influence me positively, who bring out the best in me, and who help me to believe that I can get there. You know, I think it's like there's a difference between envy and jealousy. And on social media, we can think that we're jealous of someone because, oh, she's got this hot body. But actually, you're not jealous of her. You're just envying that thing that she has because you can see it within yourself and you know that you can get it. You know? So there's a difference there. And so I think like to start thinking about these people who have the things that we might potentially want, whether that be some kind of like character or financial abundance or the body or the boyfriend or the job or the business, to instead of like being jealous and kind of like putting that energy onto it, to looking at them as expanders and, you know, with that like joyful envy going, I know that I can get that. I'm only seeing it because I know that I have the potential to do that. And I'm going to follow this person and I'm going to let them influence me. How is he doing that, you know? And, I mean, that's kind of on like a social media realm, but even with my environments now, it's like, okay, so right now I'm focusing on like my financial side. And so like I'm attracting people who earn more money than me, who live their lives completely different to me, who like hustle differently in their business and so on. And so it's like I'm purposefully calling in these people to help expand me in that space.
Beautiful. Yeah. Success leaves clues, right? And I'm a big believer, something I preach all the time, is that if you had all the answers already, you would have done the thing. You would have got to the place where you thought you could have got to. Yes, ultimately it will come from within you. And often we need a fucking cheer squad. We need some humans that can just show us things that we can't quite see yet, who can ignite the light within us that we just can't quite tap into yet.
Oh my God, yes. Like, honestly, I would love to sit here and say that I believe in myself 100% wholeheartedly every single day. But even just this afternoon, I was on the phone to one of my best friends asking her, like, you know, am I a shitty friend? Like, you know, like just, it's like, you know, sometimes like we all need a cheerleader and someone to help validate us, even though our higher selves and deep down, we know what we're worth of and we know that we're good people. We know that, but sometimes we just need reminding.
It's just a bit of guidance as well.
Yeah, totally. And that's all good.
Guidance back to ultimately what you already knew.
What you already know. Yeah. Yeah.
How a conversation I've been having with a few clients recently has been around environment and like auditing your inner circle. What would you say to someone who knows they live in a toxic environment, but they don't know where to go to find their humans, their people, their tribe? Where is a good place to start?
Well, if you're based in Auckland, come to my Pillow Talk event. No, I think
I didn't even mean for that segue, but that's perfect. Plug away.
I think it comes back to that curiosity piece and just like getting online, joining groups, following people, like look where they hang out, like start kind of like purposefully putting yourself in spaces and in environments where you could potentially meet those people. So say you are wanting to, be more fit and you want to find friends who also value fitness like you do because, your friends are great, but, they don't care about working out at all. They all eat pizza and that's not going to help you. And so you don't need to like delete them on Facebook and never see them ever again. It's just about adding to. And so when you start going to the gym, be open and be mindful and like, don't be afraid to approach that person and go, hey, I'm like just starting out at this. Do you want to go for a coffee? Like, I think, people will be flattered. Most people, unless they're kind of, assholes, like people would be flattered. And, if they don't have time or space to meet up with you physically anytime soon, then, maybe they suggest certain events or meetups or groups that you can go to and so on and so forth. Just like keep at it. And it's about putting yourself in the environment so that you can start to connect and meet people. Like workshops are great. Like activities are great. If you're dealing with like really, really toxic relationships, like, like seriously, then like you need to really like find a way to exit that situation. There's all sorts of.
And online communities. Thousands.
There's online communities. Yeah.
Thousands.
Maybe not for. Yeah. I think the thing with toxic relationships is that it can be really easy to just be like, oh, that's toxic. Like, like cut / it's over. And I think there is definitely a time and a place for that. Like, yeah, if it's in some of the more severe cases, but it's also a really awesome exercise for you as an individual to practice setting boundaries, because you don't have to.
I just realized we haven't even touched on relationships yet.
No, we haven't. No. And so like relationships are, like a great way to practice boundaries. And if you like have a group of friends who are like really like, I guess, quote unquote toxic and not, and like really not being supportive of your like best interests, then, you need to set some healthy boundaries around that. And, that's unique and different for everybody.
And the flip side of that, what I'd like to talk about is standards. Actually figuring out what your standards are in a relationship and really honoring those standards. And being confident and comfortable enough to, I guess, have the conversation when they're not being met, if it's applicable, with the other half, or, just knowing when you need to, or get to step away. That's a standard of mine. Might look like an expectation to you, but that's something I really hold true that I need from a relationship or even a friendship. And if that's not being met, being comfortable to either speak your truth or know where to just sever the cords.
Yeah, I mean, like, we could talk for hours on that. I feel like it comes down to like really knowing yourself first, because you can't have values and you can't have standards if you don't know what you even want. So it's really important that you do the work within yourself first and really start to get to know who you are, what makes you tick, and what you need in life to feel supported and happy. So that's the first step. And then, when it comes to relating with, with your partner, like an intimate partner, it's about value alignment, because if you are like going in for a committed, I guess, long-term relationship with someone where you don't have the same core values, that is a decision that you need to make. Is this core value of mine something that I can negotiate on? And sometimes it's not. That is something that you need to get really real with yourself and ask yourself, can I negotiate on this? Can I give up on this core value? A lot of the time it's a no. If it's a core value, it's a no. But the thing is there's a difference between having clashing core values and then just having like challenge in a relationship, because, relationships are all mirrors, bloody, the growth is in there and all the things, and like challenges are good in relationships. Although I do kind of say that like challenges should be enough challenge and enough ease. You need to have both. If it's constant challenge, then, that is something to think about. But yeah, if you're in a relationship with someone and you're sharing the same values, then maybe it's worth sticking out and just like going through the triggers that you're experiencing, because there's a difference. You know what I mean? It's like, this person's triggering me because they're bringing out my insecurities and it's making me feel shit. That's a chance for growth. Or it's just like, we are completely unaligned in terms of our values and we want different things out of life. And it is up to you to uphold your standards in terms of what you think you're worth and what you want and what you desire.
And for me, like, the essence of all of this is having the willingness to communicate them. For me, relationship is like the fundamental foundation is communication and trust, in my mind.
Totally. Yeah, communication.
If you can't talk your fucking mind.
Yeah. And also it's like communication is 50% listening. Like, people underestimate how erotic it is to be truly heard and understood. And a lot of the time we just need to be heard. We just want to be seen. We just want to be understood for what we're trying to say. We don't want to be fought with. We don't want to like have the other person react and project and like be arguing with what I'm feeling, you know, because it's not about you. This is just my emotions, my shit. I just need you to hear it.
Yeah, I think I spoke with you about, was it the Brené Brown documentary recently? I love that prompt that she uses, that my experience of you, or the story I am telling myself right now, is
totally
so
so epic. So epic. So if people who are like really into communication at the moment and wanting to learn how to like take it to the next level, a really great framework that I recommend and use is nonviolent communication, NVC. There's a ton of resources online, free resources online. It just gives you the communication tools to practice what Brené Brown does in that, which is essentially dropping into your vulnerability and coming from your heart. Because it's like, I'm feeling like this, like you've done this thing and it's made me feel like this. And, you know, the story that I'm telling myself is that, you know, you don't love me or whatever. And coming from that place, from your heart space, allows for the other person to soften and drop in, as opposed to react from that headspace as well.
I was about to say, it's a way that you can deliver it where it becomes constructive and not reactionary.
Yeah, totally. Hey Drew,
so
I just want to
really be heard.
Oh, totally. Yes, you can be hit. I just want to let you know that I got the 10% battery thing on my phone.
Ooh,
It's not even my phone.
right.
It's the French phone. And, you know, it's one of those silly iPhones where
Holy fuck, I just realized what the time was.
Yeah, it's been going for ages. Like the charger is the same with the headphone jack. I just like can't deal with like the extra technical, like can't deal. So 10%.
All right, let's start to wrap this up. What words of wisdom would you offer for someone who, I guess, is sitting in a similar place as you were when you started this journey? You know, I guess, who is unsure about where to begin? What would be some words that Laura Allen would like to share with that human right now?
The doing is the knowing. Yeah,
yes.
The doing is the knowing.
Oh, yes. Been talking about that a lot recently. The know, do, be.
Sorry, babe. I've just got someone. Say that again.
You're right. No, it's just something I've been talking about recently. Is the know. There's a huge difference between the knowing and the doing. You can know all the things if you don't actually practice any of them.
Well,
you
there's
don't
that
become
aspect
them.
as well. But I think a lot of the time we get stuck and we don't action because we think we don't know what to do. And it's like, none of us know what we're doing ever, but the doing, by taking the action, you find out. So by taking that first step and just Googling, then you'll start to know. So don't worry if you don't know what to do. Nobody ever knows what to do. You know, none of us know what we're doing. Just the doing is the knowing. Yeah.
Takes that. Beautiful. Right. Where can all these epic humans find you? Talk to you, communicate with you, figure out what you're doing.
Yeah, honestly, like Instagram is my jam. It's my favorite way to serve. It's just so much fun. It's such a fun app. I'm always on the stories. I do lives. I do like Q&A on a Friday, Q&A Friday. And it's a vibe. So just come hang out on Instagram. That's the best place to start. It is _ Laura, LAURA _ Ellen, ELLEN. You can also check out my website, which is Laura, LAURA -ELLEN.com. And of course, my podcast, the Sexual Wellness Podcast. So just search the Sexual Wellness Podcast on, your podcasting app. It's on all of them. So yeah, check it out.
Beautiful. Do you want to talk very briefly on your event coming up?
Oh, yeah, totally. So I've launched a bi-monthly event series called Pillow Talk, and every single event is based around a particular pillar of living a happy, healthy, turned-on sex life. So the first one is in a couple of weeks. It's on a Thursday night, October the 24th. It's at an epic venue in Greyland, CBD City. It is It is super schmack. We're going to have like epic high vibrational food. We've got a bar there. Like, you know, okay, I just like want people to have a good time. We're going to be playing beats. Like, I just envision this like room full of like lionesses, like lounging in a pillow fortress, like feeding each other grapes and like bopping to amazing music. And then I'll do a presentation on, orgasm, anatomy and arousal and self-pleasure. And then we'll be going into a Q&A. And so it's just a time to come, connect, make those new connections that you're seeking out, learn about your body, learn about self-love, and just have like a really freaking good time doing it. Yeah.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. Thank you for bearing with all the technical difficulties.
Oh man, that was hectic. I said, I was so funny before I jumped on this call, like my digital marketing wizard is living with me at the moment, and I like spat at her and I was just like, I'm deleting Facebook after this. I don't care what kind of communities we've got on Facebook. I am never, ever going on Facebook again. And she looked at me, she's just like, whatever. Like
until tomorrow.
Yeah, until tomorrow.
Thank you. And yeah, I really just want to acknowledge you for all that you are, all that you be, how you show up, and the level of relativity that you bring to all of this. You make it easy, you make it simple, and you make it understandable. And people fucking get it. You're a vibe.
Yeah. You're a vibe. Thanks, Drew. Thank you. Thank you for having me. You know, I absolutely just like froth you. So yeah. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. This is a great show.
My pleasure. Lots of love. We'll talk soon.
Lots of love. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like and subscribe or share it with someone who you feel could benefit from hearing it too. My mission is to bring healthy sexuality to the mainstream, so be sure to leave your 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app, because that way this content can land in the ears of those who need it the most. If you're looking for more resources on how to live a turned-on life, check out my website at www.laura-allen.com, where you'll find events, coursework, free downloadable workbooks, as well as my coaching packages. And lastly, I want to thank you for taking the time to prioritize yourself in this exquisite way, because when we do, that's when we can really start to show up for the rest of the world. And until next time, thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back with another episode soon.